All right, so I just wanted to give you guys another example to follow for how to annotate information in the papers that I showed you earlier. So, for instance, I want to finish the example that we were working on in class. So again, I had been using that baseline annotation software, right, which you can activate here through your extensions. In it, I wanted to make sure that I was signed in under the ClinGen OTC VCEP. And then you can add in these annotations. And in class, I had shown you how to do case and disease assertion, how to do the variant call, which is probably one of the hardest parts to do. You start identifying these other informations and whether they have them. And so as to guide you in this process, right, you should use this annotation protocol that was distributed by Courtney. And so I'm just going to go through and use these and go through and annotate things, and note that basically I'm just going to put in information for all of these items. So as I go through, we'll look and see. So case HPO free text. Okay, this is going to be to annotate with phenotypic information that does not have an appropriate HPO number. And for this one, where this was described was up here, where it talked about patient 29 and things that were associated with it. Basically, this is the same kind of information that was, I think, associated with the phenotyping information. If we were to look at the human genome, the human phenotype ontology, right, the thing that we had identified as being sort of the dominant phenotype here was right, OTC deficiency, ammonia, lots of ammonia in the system, and so ammonemia, which is an increased concentration of ammonia in the blood. So that was seen here, where we were able to see the lots of ammonia in his blood. So I don't think there's anything else we need to add there, so I'm just going to put NA. For the next one, case not HPO, I'm also going to put NA, so this is to annotate for the HPOs that were not noted to manifest within the proband of interest. Case not HPO free text, it's going to be NA. Motor achievement, standing, sitting, walking, age milestone, as well as any loss of motor milestones. For this individual, the patient was born basically after the 4th day. They became lethargic and comatose. So there's really not any information there on that except on motor, so we're just going to leave that NA. Creatine kinase. Is there any information on creatine kinase? We look at the description there. There is not. So put that as NA. All right, so for case previous testing, which is going to look for an annotation with a description of the method and whether genome-wide analysis methods were used. I'm not 100% sure here, but I know that there was no genome-wide analysis method used. So there were no other genes that were tested. They don't have a panel of a gene. So I'm just going to say none. for genotyping method, how they identified the variant of interest, I'm going to put targeted PCR and direct sequencing of OTC. Previously published. So annotate here with the PMID of any additional articles containing information on this individual case or individual or proband of interest. I don't think that there is one, so I'm just going to say NA for now. I think that's what I want to do. I could also reference something else, but this is an old enough case. I don't think that it is in another example. If I did want to look for it, I could take this variant, right, and I could look in something like litvar. And see, it doesn't find it. I could also look at PubMed. I could delete some of these. I've got a couple examples now here. This is 2021, 2021, 2021. So there's only one other example here. It's 2011. So far, I would have to say that despite looking into this, I don't actually see any place where it's referenced in another, where it's previously been published. And specifically, I don't think it's been previously published before this paper. I'm going to look at variant. This is to annotate with HGVS nomenclature for the variant. So the example that we would use here, right, is this information. I already have that up here. I've already got the variant identified. So we don't need that one. CAID. I think I don't have a CAID number for it yet. So if I go to the allele registry, OTC, it's going to indel, so I switch to indels. C 403 deletion. Ah, okay. Now I found it. Found two of them actually. They look pretty much the same in their description. I don't see any difference between them, except this one is for 6. So that's the most recent one. We'll use this version. So there we found canonical identifier. So the CID is that. So again, I went to gene variation based inquiry. I then switched to indels. If you had a position where you had a substitution, here you would have filled out that instead. But I had indels, so I went with OTC, C, and then 403 deletion. Oops. And then when I did my query, this was the one that had the same transcript. So this was the right one to use. It's actually the same identifier as the previous one, so it would have been work either way. So in addition to CAID, lastly, we'll see if there's, or next we'll see if there's nomad. So what we want to go do is then check the nomad page. Didn't really get anything, so let's try that. Nothing in there. Looks like it's only going to take, let's say, OTC. There we go. We'll turn off missense. We'll have other there. Click on the transcript. Scroll down, let's see. See stop gain there. So I don't see it listed here. So it looks like this is not in Nomad, at least as far as I can tell. because even if it was the change that we were looking for in this case, if we go back here, would have been an alanine to a termination. And I don't see any case in this section where I see alanine going to, we have alanine to alanine, but I don't see any alanine going to termination. My guess is it would be in this other category. I don't see anything. I do see a stop gain here, but I don't see another stop gain listed. So it looks like that there's no information on allele frequency. So I can go back over here and I can say nothing. Then there's multiple gene variants. So if the variant in other genes are listed in the proband, so are there variants in other genes listed in the example here that we could also annotate? There is no example of that. So no other genes are listed as probands. So we'll just say none. So in addition to identifying the allele registry ID, actually, as an alternative to that, we can find the ClinVar ID. And if you can, you want to provide either the ClinVar ID or the CA ID, not both. And I think initially our preference is going to be to use the ClinVar variant ID. So how might we go about finding that? Well, we'd have to go and annotate and identify that. One of the things we can do, though, is we can actually use the allele registry or some of the other tools to find that information. So let's see if we can chase down that information here. If we go back to our allele registry, let's see if it pops us. This is the ClinVar variant ID. All right, so here's our ClinVar variant ID. We can also include that. So I will create some new tags to add on. So now we've got all the information that is outlined in this document filled out. Okay, we've got all these items filled out. This proband hasn't been published on, so we don't need any of that. We've already assigned the variant ID, so a lot of this other information shouldn't need to be added. Remember that we do only want to have one of these associated with this, so because we have the ClinVar ID, we can actually get rid of the tag for the allele ID. I actually am going to leave the allele ID in the other variant tag, just in case. I'll let Courtney decide if she wants to move from there, but I won't tag it as such, so I'll only leave one tag in there for the ClinVar ID. So it looks like we are in pretty good shape. So we'll go back here, we're going to post it, so now we have it posted here. I'm going to add the same PMID to it, just to be safe too. Okay, looks like we got everything in there. It's going to take a little bit of time and effort to go through these and suss them out, but I think it's worthwhile for you all to do. So I'll send you a link and have you guys work in groups on how to go about doing this. All right, see you soon.